Good evening, everyone. I'm Laura Ingraham. This is the Ingraham Angle from Washington tonight. As always, thanks for spending time with us inside the violent world of Chicago's gangs.
Are you walking around strapped? You got something?
Man, you know what's
a little
going
baby
on,
on you?
man. This, you know what's going on. You know what's going on.
Okay, so we do got some backup if anything does happen.
Yeah.
Plus, someone should tell Kathy Hochul that this is racist.
Don't stop by the liquor store. Okay? Buy something for the kids. Buy them some food.
And imagine thinking that you're flying to France, but you end up in Africa.
Is this going to Nice?
To Nice, yeah. I thought you said to Nice, which is in France.
Oh.
In my Angle in moments, but first, a few hours ago, I forced myself to watch the full, unedited video of Arena Zarutska's murder. Now, every adult American should see what this monster did to her. To see what's at stake here, what we're talking about when we talk about crime. In moments, I'm going to show you some of it. I have to warn you, it's extremely upsetting and graphic. It's heartbreaking.
The surveillance video shows Arena Zarutska getting on the train by herself in her work uniform, sitting down by herself in a row that just happened to be in front of DeCarlos Brown Jr. Approximately 4 minutes later, Mr. Brown pulled out a pocket knife. You see him on video open that pocket knife, and he stabbed her 3 times in the neck. He then walked off the train with blood dripping from the knife. This is obviously a horrible, horrible situation.
With her throat slit and beginning to bleed out, 23-year-old Arena Zarutska covered her mouth. She grabbed at her throat and looked up in disbelief at the man who had just stabbed her, as if to ask, why? As DeCarlos Brown Jr. casually strolled away, her face fell into her hands. She obviously knew she was about to die. So blood splattered through the aisle, and seconds later, she bows her head, slumps over in a seat, and falls to the train floor, lying in a pool of blood, her own blood. Now, by the time police arrived, Arena was dead. So now the Trump administration is involved, and it's supplementing state charges with a federal one. Career criminal DeCarlos Brown Jr. is facing life in prison or the death penalty. And while we hope this brings justice for Zarutska, we have to make sure we never forget who she was.
She worked at a senior citizen center. She worked at a pizza place. She took care of animals in the neighborhood. She was building her young life. She had recently moved in with her partner. She was probably tired after a long day at work and just trying to get home to her loved ones, but she never made it. In an instant, her life was over, and her mother, her father, her siblings, her brother and sister, and her other family and friends, their lives will never be the same.
Zarutska had fled Ukraine, trying to escape the war and might make a life here that was better than the one she left behind.
After Arena's death, the embassy in Ukraine called and said, "We'll help you bring her home." And her family said no. They said she loved America. We're going to bury her here. So I think we can give her an America to be proud of. As Mr. Barnacle said, something here is broken, and we're here to fix it.
Here with reaction is Russ Ferguson, the U.S. Attorney for the Western District of North Carolina, the man you just saw. Russ, I watched your press conference. You got choked up. I think anyone watching that and thinking about the terror this poor young woman felt was choked up as well. Tell us what you know so far about how this was allowed to happen in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Yeah, well, thank you, Laura. Thanks for your attention to it. I'm getting choked up again just listening to your monologue about this terrible, terrible situation. This is a career criminal. He had been released from state custody 14 times. He had served some sentences. I think he had served about 6 years in state prison, but had a very violent past and had done a lot of terrible things before he did this just very random crime on a very, very innocent 23-year-old woman who was working 3 jobs to save up for a car and taking the train home from work. It's just an absolutely tragic situation.
Now, explain the federal nature of this in your view, given the evidence that you've already looked at.
Yeah, I mean, classically, this is a state crime, or it's a stabbing, it's a murder. Those are all state crimes. But this is a unique crime because it happened on a public transit system. And that affects the American way of life. Those are people that are trying to get to work. They are trying to get to college for their classes. They are trying to get to their families. And because of that, Congress was very wise and created a federal statute that said it's a federal crime to commit an act of violence on a mass transportation provider. And that's exactly what we have here. So we've brought that charge. With that charge, we have the ability to supplement the state first-degree murder charge. And so we're seeing this more as a add-on to that charge, a supplement, a backup to that charge to make sure that violent people like this don't see the light of day again.
Have you had, or any of your men, I should say, had the chance to interview witnesses? There were a number of people on that train when this horrific murder took place.
Yes, local police and the FBI have both interviewed witnesses. They've interviewed the defendant. I talked today with the family of the victim just to touch base with them. So that investigation is underway. We filed this by criminal complaint today, but we're still investigating, and the FBI is still investigating. We may see additional charges. We're going to charge whatever the facts will support in this case. So that investigation is ongoing.
Now, Russ, there are reports that Brown was heard on the video saying, "I got that white girl." Do you have confirmation that that, in fact, was said? That obviously brings it to a possible hate crime as well.
I do not have confirmation of that. We are looking at civil rights violations and hate crimes and all of that if we have the evidence to support an additional charge. We have some statements from him. We have some eyewitness statements. We do not have confirmation on any of that yet, but we continue to investigate, and if that turns out to be true, we'll bring the appropriate charge.
We also understand that, and you reference this, that her parents, obviously heartbroken, did not want her body to be returned to Ukraine, knowing that she came to the United States for a better life. I know her mom speaks almost no English, but tell us about that conversation.
Yeah, I spoke to her mom through a translator today, and I spoke to her uncle. And shortly after her death, the embassy in Ukraine reached out and said, you know, we'll help financially or whatever we need to do to get her body home so you can bury her at home in Ukraine. And the family said no. They said that she came to America, she loved America, and they buried her here in America, which is a true testament to what this country is, but it's also very fragile. And if we allow things like this to happen, that won't be the America we live in anymore. And that's why we're bringing the federal government in on this to try to bring appropriate charges and put bad folks behind bars.
And Russ, I had been thinking about this today as a mom, and I have a 20-year-old daughter, and I have 2 sons, and how people, it's just commonly understood that you can get on a train or a bus, and a lot of people wear earbuds. It's not smart to wear earbuds, and I tell my kids this all the time because you have to be situationally aware, especially, given the crime situation in some cities, although Charlotte's probably one of the better cities in the United States. But what can you tell us about reassuring the American people tonight that the federal government will indeed step in if necessary if safety is simply not achievable in some of these cities under the current regime of laws, judges, prosecutors?
Yeah, I mean, that's the worst part about this case, Laura, and I'm a dad too, and now the whole thought process is different. Can I take my daughter to the park to play on the weekends? Is it like the light rail? Is it not safe? And I totally get that concern, and as a parent, I think it's a completely reasonable concern to have. And where state and locals won't do anything, this administration has been very clear we're going to step in and do something. Now, that doesn't mean in an instant every train in America is safe, or every park is safe, or every city street is safe. This is going to be a long process because, unfortunately, some of our cities have gone down the wrong road. They let people out of jail when they shouldn't be. They've let people get away with crimes, and it is time to turn that boat around, and that's what we're doing with this case. And hopefully it sends a message to people out there that if you think you can commit crimes, commit violent crimes, and go through a state system and be out on the street the next month or the next year, that is not going to be the case in federal court, and we are going to do what we can to bring these cases to the federal system.
Well, I think right now the response from some, not all, but some in the Democrat Party and some in the pundit class is that the Trump administration is, quote, using crime and personal tragedy to deflect from issues with the economy or deflect from Epstein. Or one of the other issues that they don't want to talk about. And your response to that?
You cannot make up these crimes. These crimes are happening. And I wish that this crime that happened in Charlotte was made up and I could snap my fingers and say, you're right, and it's gone, and it didn't happen, and it was a distraction. But it's not. It happened. A 23-year-old woman lost her life. And this is the news of the day. And this is important, and this is what's happening. And if you think this is a distraction, then the distraction is the distraction. And you need to focus on what's important because people are dying, and there's enough.
I know the suspect, we understand, has given a statement. Can you tell us anything about that statement?
I have not seen the statement that the suspect gives, and of course that's on an investigative hold for now while we investigate leads from that statement. But he did talk to police after the incident, and we do have a statement from him. That statement did form part of our charges and part of our confidence in bringing these charges. So we do have that will come to light in a trial in this case. But right now we're still using that statement for investigative leads to shore this case up. We charged this case very quickly. We charged it by criminal complaint. And we don't normally do that, but because we don't have the confidence in the state system, we had to do that here. And so it's kind of odd to be at this stage and still be investigating, but that's where we are by necessity.
A lot of Americans see this, and I urge people to watch this, as difficult as it is, because people have to understand what is at stake. When you're going about your daily life, when you think everything is fine, when you're blithely unaware of your surroundings, tragedy or horrific evil can strike, and sometimes you can't prevent it, but sometimes you can. And I think it's important for people to watch this. And she was in disbelief. You could see it in her eyes, Russ. She couldn't believe this had happened. And in her eyes, in my view, you look at her eyes, she knew she was dying. And she couldn't believe it. She was on a bus, as your colleague said, trying to get home from work, or a train, and this is what's happening. And so people watching this going that we need the death penalty in this case. We need the maximum penalty against this individual, and that is the death penalty.
It is such a random crime. It is absolutely terrifying. It could have been anyone. It could have been anyone's daughter. And it's so sad to me that you have to tell your kids not to wear their earbuds on the train, because that is not the society we should live on. You should be able to sit in a row by yourself in peace without being stabbed in the neck.
Russ, thank you, and I'm glad you showed your emotions today, because all of us were feeling what you were feeling, and I think it really made this day and what you are trying to do all that more impactful. So thank you very much for joining us.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.